So, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, happy Ganesh Puja to all the participants. And sorry to schedule this program on Ganesh Puja. Earlier, I have no knowledge that today's date is booked for Ganesh Puja. Okay, I congratulate all the participants first to spare their valuable time to listen this particular talk. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank Tapasi Madam to take initiative and Sarangi sir as head of the department and all the management people and other people who are directly, indirectly associated to this particular national webinar. So, in this talk, I will tell you about resource allocation and task scheduling algorithms for cloud computing. And the main prerequisite for this particular talk is that you should have familiar with the basic terminology of cloud computing. Although if you are not comfortable in the basic terminology, I will try to tell you in a simpler thing so that you will understand this particular topic. So basically, this topic is for the intermediate level, not the beginner level. Still, I will try to make it simpler as possible. So in this talk, I will tell you about the main problem, what researchers are working in the domain of cloud computing. So that if anybody is interested or if you are interested in this domain, you can give to your BTech, MTech and or PhD student to work in this particular area of cloud computing. Then I will see what are the algorithms developed in the last decade, in last 10 years in resource allocation, and also we'll see the last 10 years algorithms developed by various researchers in the context of task scheduling as well. So in resource allocation, I am going to tell you five algorithms in today's talk, which include some algorithm by some open resource manager that I will tell you later, and followed by these three algorithm, I will tell you what's the fairness-based algorithm, which is really required in order to provide various fair services to the cloud user. Then I'll tell you about posted price model that is belongs to the resource allocation domain. And in the task scheduling, I'll tell you a couple of algorithms related to multi-cloud scheduling. I'll tell you why multi-cloud is emerging, why multi-cloud is people are heading towards multi-cloud. And I will also tell you some of the performance matrices to evaluate the resource allocation and task scheduling algorithm. At last, I will give you a set of references and conclusion so that if you are interested in this particular domain, so you can carry forward your research in this particular domain. So before going to this topic, resource allocation and task scheduling, if you are interested in this domain, if you search in Google that resource allocation task scheduling algorithms, you will find a couple of papers. They are using resource allocation and task scheduling as a synonym. They are using these two words interchangeably. They are thinking that resource allocation and task scheduling has no major difference. In the context that you can say, if whatever algorithms we have developed for resource allocation, the same algorithm is applicable to task scheduling. In that context, maybe many researchers are using resource allocation and task scheduling interchangeably. But there is a significant difference between resource allocation and task scheduling. When I started my research career in the year of 2013, I asked Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya, University of Melbourne. I asked him that what is the basic difference of resource allocation or task scheduling, because none of the paper addressed resource allocation and task scheduling separately. So can you please tell me how these two terms are different? So as mentioned by Professor Rajkumar Bhuiya, the same example I am giving you to clear this idea. For example, for Synergy Institute of Technology, suppose I need a EIMS system, Electronics Information Management System, EIMS system. This EIMS system is used by faculty member, is also used by the student, is also used by the staff of the institute, or also used by the management people, or other, let's say alumni or some other stakeholders of the institute, right? So these people are interested. These people are will given a username and password so that they can enter to the EIMS portal of the Synergy Institute of Technology, and they can update their details. They can see their required things in EIMS system. right? So in order to build this particular software or in order to host this particular software, I need a cloud service provider. Assume that our Synergy Institute of Technology don't want to host a particular server because server needs maintenance and server needs monitoring as well. So for that, Synergy Institute of Technology plan to subscribe a cloud service provider, right? For this EIMS system, we want to subscribe a various cloud service provider. We call it the CSP. So there are a lot of cloud service providers are there. You know that is Amazon is a very popular cloud service provider. Google is a cloud service provider. IBM is a cloud service provider. Microsoft is a cloud service provider. So there are a lot of cloud service providers there, right? Then there is a discussion in the institute that which cloud service provider is best, right? So that depends upon what kind of requirement you require for your institute, and what kind of services a cloud service provider is going to provide you, right? With this context, you have to select one cloud service provider, right? So like you have decided you have to go for Amazon, right, for hosting this EIMS software, right? And in order to go for this Amazon subscription, you require, let's say, 30 servers, right? You require 30 servers to host this application because a lot of people is going to use this particular application. So that we initially have taken 30 servers. Later point of time, if I feel that 30 server is not sufficient, then I can increase the 30 server to any number of servers, right? Or if I feel that 30 server is very less, I can decrease into some small number of servers, right? That is 30 minus any number of servers I can use, right? So once I'll ask for 30 server, I'll specify what is the requirement of each and every server, what hardware, what software, what is the processing power, what is the storage, everything I'll specify, right? So upon receiving the 30 servers requirement, Amazon is going to provide 30 systems to you or 30 servers to you, right? If you see that context, that is called as resource allocations. 30 servers are allocated to this institute to manage the EIMS software, right? So that is called as your resource allocation part, right? So once you receive these 30 servers, right, virtual servers, so what you will do, you have to plan, right, which module of the software will be installed in which server, right? For example, you will say that let's say faculty module I will install in the server number 7, right? Student module I want to subscribe. Let's say more students are there, so I will go for 3, 4, 5, 6 some server, right? 4 servers we have dedicated to server student to manage the student part, right? So we are deciding that how we can decompose the workload into small parts, and we can assign these parts to different servers, right? So here you need to decide the way you are going to process these kind of applications, right? So for that you require task scheduling, because task scheduling will give you the ordering of the task, right? It will give which order you have to execute the work or which module you have to assign to which server, right? So that efficiently you can manage the resources, right? So once resource is allocated to you, you can call it by resource allocation. And but once resource is allocated to a particular client or a customer or an institute or an organization, you have to decide how you can decompose your application and how you make each and every server busy. For that, ordering is very much important. When ordering is coming into picture, task scheduling plays a major role, right? So this is the first difference between the resource allocation and task scheduling. It is also suggested by Professor Rajkumar Bhuyan. So a couple of terms we will discuss in resource allocation and task scheduling. The terms are like lease. Generally, whenever there is a contract, you know that we call it a lease. Someone is assigned to a particular lease, right? He is doing a building or he is doing a, let's say, a bridge. Okay, for that lease is granted, right? Second type is called as applications. In resource allocation and task scheduling, sometimes we refer as applications. Sometimes we refer it as by job also. Sometimes we refer it as a task also, right? But these things are, you can say there are similar properties among the lease, application, job, and task. But if you go in details, then you will find these are also completely different. As we discussed that resource allocation and task scheduling also having a significant difference, right? So I'll tell you in the next slide onwards how they are different. So come to leads, right? So first one is leads. Let us consider there are 4 node cluster is there. those who are not compatible with this word cluster, simply assume that you have a, let's say, XYZ lab in your institute, right? XYZ lab. In that XYZ lab, there is 4 computers, right? Many computers are there, but I want to take only 4 computers. And these 4 computers are connected each other, right? So that they can share their resources as and when required, right? They are connected through a network, right? So that can be considered as a 4-node cluster, right? So if any work I want to execute, I can assign to any server, right? For example, I need 2 servers. I can take server number 1 and server number 2. Somebody may take server number 3 and server number 4 also. If all the servers are 3, somebody may take 2 or 3. Somebody may take 1, 4. Somebody may take 3, 1. Any order you can take to execute a particular work, right? So what you need here, we need a 4-node cluster. So I'll tell you the complete algorithm, whatever I'll discuss here. So I'll restrict it to 4 nodes. In simulation, if you carry forward this particular research, then you can go for any number of nodes based upon the availability of the computer system, right? And x-axis represents the time. So I'll tell you, so let's say my timeline starts at night 12 a.m. So I'll tell you from 12 a.m. how I'm going to assign resources to these 4 systems, right? 12 a.m. Then I will consider it 1 a.m. Let's say 2 a.m. something, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. like that. It will go on, right? These are the different timelines we will take in x-axis. Y-axis consists of various nodes, but we will restrict our discussion up to 4 nodes so that you will understand very easily how resource allocation and task scheduling works in this particular system. Okay. Now there are different types of leases are there, right? Like I'll tell you a non-technical example here, right? Suppose I want to travel from Bhubaneswar to, let's say, New Delhi, right? Bhubaneswar to New Delhi, right? So there are plenty of trains are there, right? So many trains are there. Let's say total number of train is 10, right? Right? So I picked out of 10 train, I picked Rajdhani Express, which is very famous one, right? Or Durant Express, any one you like, right? And I want to book a particular ticket, right? So if there is a availability in the train, right, in 3 AC or 2 AC or 1 AC, wherever it is applicable, so you can book a ticket. So once you book a ticket, what it is assigned, a berth number is assigned, right? Right? A coach number is assigned, a berth number is assigned, right? Coach number, let's say A2, and your seat number, let's say 10, right? So let's say in Bhubaneswar, it is starting at morning 9 a.m. Okay, it is reaching New Delhi at the next day 9 a.m. Right? So 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. Right? Today, let's say today 9 a.m. to tomorrow 9 a.m. Right? So the seat or the berth and the coach is booked for you. That is A to 10 is booked for you. Right? If the train is delayed also, let's say train is reaching New Delhi at say 11 a.m. Right? So 11 a.m. or up to 11 a.m. the seat is booked to you, right? The same kind of things in cloud we call as a advanced reservation, right? You can book a resource by mentioning the start time and end time. You can mention the start time. For example, if you see here 13, that is 1 p.m. is considered as the start time and 2 p.m. is considered as the end time. Or if one person may say that I will specify the start time and I will specify 1 hour is the execution time. Okay, 1 hour is the execution time means it will start from 1 p.m. and it will continue up to 2 p.m. Right? I request the participant to not to share their screen. Okay. Okay. So here what happened? A particular period of time, that is 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., a particular resource, that is node 1, node 2, node 3, total number of node is 3, is booked for a particular customer. Let's say the customer is X, right? So that is called your advanced reservation list. So advanced reservation list says that you have to mention the start time, okay? You have to mention the duration or the end time and the number of nodes, right? Then that particular period is reserved to you, and for that particular time you can use any cloud resources. So that is called your advanced reservation list. Coming back to the second one, second type of lease is called as best effort lease. For example, in the same example, in the Rajdhani Express, you are going to book a ticket, but ticket is not available in, let's say, in 2AC, 3AC or sleeper. It is not available. Right? So what you will do? You will immediately start your journey by thinking that why I'll travel in the Rajdhani Express, there will be some availability in the other expresses as well, right? Like let's say Purushottam Express is also going, Nandan Kanan Express is going, so many expresses going, right? So my objective is to reach to New Delhi. So why to wait to Rajdhani Express, because the seat is not available. So here you are not going to specify the start time of your lease or end time of your lease, or you can say duration of the lease. Rather, you will specify only duration, right? Best effort lease, you will only specify the duration, right? And the start time and end time of your lease will be decided by the cloud service provider. For example, while you are submitting a particular list to the cloud, so it may happen that the resources are not available. Okay, total resources is not available. So what we'll do? So we'll see that as soon as the resources become available, so what you will do? Your lease, whatever you have submitted to the cloud, that is going to execute. That's why start time is not mentioned, end time or duration is not mentioned, but how much time you require, that is called as duration, is mentioned, right? You need not explicitly mention the start time and end time. For example, the resource is available at say 5 p.m. So you require a duration of 2 hours, so it will continue up to 7 p.m. Right? And this best effort lease is of two types, right? One is called as primitive, another is called as non-primitive. Primitive says that, for example, you have started your work at 5 p.m. Let's say 6 p.m. another lease is arrived. Okay, another lease is arrived, and that lease is having higher priority. So what we will do? We will preempt you. We will stop you for executing the work. Okay, and we are going to assign the resources to the other lease. And once that lease is completed, then I'll again resume it. Right? That is called as preemption. In between, if you can preempt a particular work, that is called as primitive. Right? But if it is not in the primitive mode, that is non-primitive mode, then once the resource is assigned to 5 p.m., you are going to get the result at 7 p.m. Nobody can interrupt to you, right? So this is another kind of lease used in the cloud computing. So if you compare the first lease, that is advanced reservation, and the second lease best effort, obviously advanced reservation lease is having highest priority, that is the priority number one. Best effort lease is having second priority. Similarly, cost case, advanced reservation is more costly, right? Best effort is less costly, right? So you can see in this diagram, I have started a best effort lease here, right? But at this particular point of time, another advanced reservation lease, a advanced reservation lease is coming to the cloud service provider. Means the user X has requested a best effort lease, user Y has requested the advanced reservation lease. So Y has requested at this particular point of time. So what cloud service provider will see? It will compare the priority of Y with X. As you know that priority of Y is higher, priority of X is lower. So what I'll do, X I will print and I'll start executing Y. Once Y is completed, what I will do, I will again resume X, right? So that's why this is called as your best effort with primitive action. If it is non-primitive, then AR lease cannot print a best effort lease, right? So, but in general, we consider that best effort lease is a non-primitive mode. So as it is in non-primitive mode, okay, as it is in primitive mode, so AR lease can print the best effort lease, and once the AR lease is over, we can start the best effort lease, right? This is the comparison of AR lease with BE lease, right? By looking into this, I will introduce a problem later. Next lease is called as immediate lease. Just like there is some urgency, you have to immediately travel, right? So the lease will be requested to the cloud service provider at 9 a.m. And the user also expects that the cloud service provider will execute its work at 9 a.m. only. If it is 9:1, then the lease is rejected, right? So the request is reached to the cloud service provider at 9 a.m. and the lease also need to be started at 9 a.m. If such a case will happen, that is called as your immediate lease, right? If it is 9:1, then your lease is rejected, right? Immediately you have to start. Once you receive a particular thing, you have to immediately start. So such type of leads in cloud we call as the immediate leads. Now, in order to avoid the best effort primitive mode, you know that best if it can be printed, right? For example, if you come back to this particular example, so this best effort task is executing, but as AR is coming, so I am permitting the best effort list and I am starting the advanced resolution list, right? Imagine at this particular time, another advanced resolution list is reached to cloud service provider, right? So what happened? I will start that advanced resolution list, right? And once that advanced resolution lease is over, this remaining part of the best effort will be started. So until unless there is a AR lease in your system, you cannot start a best effort lease. That's why we need best effort lease with deadline. So what you will say? You will say that I need the resources from 9 a.m. to let's say 5 p.m. Okay. In between these duration, I need a 1 hour slot, right? In the cloud, right? This 1 hour may be 9 to 10, it may be 9:30 to 10:30, it may be 2 to 3, it may be 3 to 4, or it may be 4 to 5, but not after 5. So as long as my lease does not start or end any later than this deadline. So I have mentioned a particular deadline. Until unless this deadline is not violated, it is okay to me, right? That type of lease is called as best effort with deadline lease, right? Next is called the negotiated lease. Like whenever we go to market also we bargain, right? We say that no, this cost is not 100 rupees, give me in 50 rupees or give me in 70 rupees, right? Similar kind of things also happen in the cloud service provider. For example, a user has requested a resources to the cloud service provider, right? User is requesting a services to the cloud service provider and user is ready to pay $100, right? If the lease has started immediately after it is received by the cloud service provider, right? Then the user is going to pay $100 to the cloud service provider. But unfortunately, whenever this user's request reaches to the cloud service provider, all the resources, this 4-node cluster is completely busy. Okay, 4-node cluster is completely busy. So what cloud service provider will say, I can't execute your work, okay, but I can execute your work after some time. Instead of $100, you pay me $50. $50 is fine for me, right? So what will happen? So the time need to start a particular lease is deviated and cost is also reduced. Okay. After some time, also cloud service provider will say that instead of $50, you give me $25, but you wait for some more time, right? Similarly, it may happen that it will say that okay, you wait for another few minutes, so you pay only $10 instead of $100. If such a things will happen, that is called as a negotiated lease, right? So these leases are required while you are applying resource allocation and task scheduling algorithm in the cloud computing. So who uses which lease? That is very much important. You know that the very popular Amazon EC2, that is called Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, they uses all the leases as a best effort lease, right? Similarly, Nimbus is a cloud toolkit which uses immediate lease. Eucalyptus is another toolkit that uses immediate lease. Open Nebula is a very popular cloud toolkit which uses best effort, but Hygia is a cloud toolkit you can also download because it is completely open source. You can give to your student to work in this in Hygia, right? It is open source. Hygia supports all the 3 types of leases, that is advanced reservation, best effort, and immediate. So it is more challenging for Hygia to how to assign the resources to the leases in comparison to Amazon EC2, Nimbus, Eucalyptus, and Open Nebula, right? So Hygia is a complete open resource manager you can download, and there is some inbuilt algorithms are also there. You can deal with this inbuilt algorithm, and you try to modify the algorithm such that the performance of Hygia can be better, right? That I will tell you in the resource allocation part. Coming back to the second one, that is applications. So application is generally represented in the form of a directed acyclic graph, which we discussed in data structure subject. You know that is directed acyclic graph, or in graph also we have studied directed graph, undirected graph. In CloudCom, it is also called as a data flow graph, right? DFG is also called, it is called as, right? Or some today called as dependency graph, right? What it indicates, your root node is A, right? and your child node or your exit node, you can say, is E and F. So you have to start from the root, right, and you have to continue up to E and F, right? So what should be the mechanism? Until unless A is completed, you cannot start B, C, D, right? Because B, C, D is dependent on A, right? Similarly, E cannot be started until unless B and C both can be, both if it is not completed, then you cannot start E. Similarly, F also need to, F can be started only if C and D is completed, right? So first you have to execute A, then you execute B, C, D in any order, right? Once B, C is completed, you can start E. Once C, D is completed, you can start F. So this is the mechanism. So whenever we are talking about application, each application has a application ID, right? And each application has a arrival time. One arrival time is given for a particular applications. The arrival time may not be 0, the arrival time may be 10, maybe 20, maybe 30, as and when it is reached to cloud service provider. Then whenever we are talking about applications, is it a directed acyclic graph, simple directed acyclic graph, whatever we have studied in computer science? No, right? Applications are real life applications. Like in this slide, you are seeing there are 3 type of applications. In the next slide, I will tell you another 2 type of applications. These 5 applications are used in our real life, right? That is called as real life applications or real time applications, right? These applications are live now also. For example, the first application, whatever you are saying, that application is called as Montes. The structure of Montes is taken from an astronomy project, right? For astronomy project, million and billion of computer systems are deployed, right? And that million and million systems are executing some of the works of this astronomy project, right? And if you see the structural view of the Montes, it looks like this one. So while you are concentrating on the resource allocation or task scheduling algorithm, what you have to do, you have to generate your values by looking into this particular structure, right? Already some data sets are already there with respect to Montes also. Similarly, second structure is called as epigenomics. Epigenomics belongs to the biology project. SIPHD is another structure, right? That is also belongs to biology structure, right? Biology structure, right? So everything, whatever you are seeing in this slide, and in the next slide, I will show you another 2. One is called as LIGO. It is belongs to the gravitational physics. CyberSec belongs to the earthquake science. And all these workshops are called real life workflows, right? And whenever you want to deal with cloud computing, if you are interested in workflow scheduling, you have to concentrate these workflows while you are performing some kind of simulation, right? So what you can see in these 5 workflows, what is the similarity and dissimilarity, right? You can see that the first workflow is having 4 root nodes, second workflow having only 1 root node, the next workflow is having 8 root node, right? So may have difference in their height, they have difference in their width, they have difference in their communication time, they have difference there in the communication time. So their structural view is also different. So in all type of behavior of the your workflow, you have to see that your algorithm is performing better in comparison to other algorithms. Then only you can claim that your algorithm is better than the other algorithms. So these are the workflows are there. You can also generate different types of workflow by writing a simple C code and C++ code, right? Now, coming to the task, right? Come to the task scheduling, the first word is says task. So whenever we say task, it is an independent task or dependent task. For example, HOD is going to assign some work to the faculty members, right? So it may happen that, for example, when the maximum work, whatever we are doing nowadays, that is related to NBA or NAC work or NIRF work, right? So these works are consist of several modules, right? Several modules are there in these works, right? So it may happen that one module is assigned to a particular faculty member, right? So sometimes what happens, whatever questionnaires are there inside a particular module, it is dependent on other modules, right? For example, 1.3 is dependent on 2.4. Section 1.3 is dependent on 2.4. Until unless you are solving 2.4, you will not get 1.3. Or 1.3 and 2.4 need to be assigned to same faculty in order to resolve any kind of conflict. So such tasks are called as your dependent tasks, right? But there are some tasks are there that is completely independent, right? So that is, they are not dependent on in each other, right? For example, you can assign 1, 2, or you can assign 2, 1. So that doesn't matter because no ordering is required. Any order is fine. That is called as an independent task. So if the task is independent, then you can apply matrix concept, right? Simple matrix concept, that is rows and columns are there. By using that matrix, you can solve the independent task problem. If the task is dependent, what we discussed now, you can go for directed acyclic graph or adjacency matrix or adjacency list, whatever we discussed in data structure, the same thing can be applied, right? So whenever you go for the independent task is again two types, right? Dependent task also can be classified into two types, no problem, right? So independent task says that, for example, there is something called as online and there is something called as offline. So as and when you are receiving a particular work, you are doing that particular work, then that is called as your online. Offline means I'll start the work once a particular time is given to me. For example, I have to start my work at tomorrow 9 a.m. So I have to wait up to tomorrow 9 a.m. Once tomorrow 9 a.m. is there, I will start my work. Such type of works are called as offline or batch mode, right? So in order to perform this task scheduling, what you need a two-step process. That is, first you have to match, right? Which task, which customer work you will assign to which server, right? Because number of customers are very huge, right? Number of computer systems you can see in the clouds of service provider, and also it is infinite, right? It is a very huge amount, right? So the mapping of a particular user's work to a particular computer system is very much interesting. So this mapping process requires a two-step process. One is called as matching. I will match with one user work with another one computer system, another user work with another server computer system. Okay. Then I will perform the scheduling. I will decide that in which order they will execute. It may happen that two user is assigned to the same computer system, right? You know that in mathematics also some theorem is there that is called as pigeonhole theorem, right? Pigeonhole theorem says that if there are n holes are there, right? If there are n plus one pigeons are there, then at least in one hole two pigeons are there, right? Same kind of things you can implement here, right? And while we are talking about these users are independent, they are not dependent on each other. So what we can say, this task is we call it a independent task, or we call it a meta task. Is my screen visible now? Is my screen visible? I request not to present because nobody is presenting. That's why my screen is not coming. Okay. So if it is an independent task, we also call it a meta task, right? As they are independent, you can assign the task in any order, right? Suddenly, sir, are you there?
Yes, sir.
So please mute your mic so that echo is coming. So if you mute, it is okay for me. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Another person is also. Tapasi madam, please mute. Tapasi madam, are you there? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Okay. So why it is interesting? Why this resource allocation and task scheduling is interesting? Because it is belongs to the NP group, right? In algorithm, you may have studied something called as NP complete problem. So this mapping of the independent task or dependent task onto heterogeneous computing sites suite, okay, is a well-known NP complete problem because we have given with a set of tasks and we need to execute that task with a minimum time, right? So this problem is called as the very popular NP complete problem, right? And here we are talking about heterogeneous computing. So let me clarify what do you mean by heterogeneous computing. Heterogeneous computing says that whatever computer systems are participating in our network, right? Because whenever you deal with a very big project like Montes or epigenomics or SIPST project, in that project the number of systems are billions, right? Billion or million computer systems are there, right? So whenever you go for a billion and million of computer systems, it is practically not possible that all the systems, whatever available, right? These systems are dependent, these systems are having same configuration, same architecture, same behavior. It is not practically possible. It is possible in a particular lab. In a lab, we have 30 computer systems these 30 computer systems are having same configuration. But whenever you are going for million computer systems, it is not practically possible to gather all the computers with same behavior. As all the systems are having different configurations, we call it a heterogeneous computing. If all the computer systems are having same configuration, then we will call this what is a homogeneous computing, right? So here it is saying mapping of the independent task to heterogeneous computing is a well-known NP-complete problem. As our objective is to minimize the total time, right? Okay, then how you can do it? For example, here I will give a very small example. Here one user is there. The user submitted a particular work that is called as task 1. User has submitted another work. Another user has submitted. User number 2 has submitted T2. User number 3 has submitted T3. User number 4 has submitted T4. Right? So 4 tasks are submitted by 4 different people. Right? So this task is generally considered in Cloud Talk is a set of instructions and set of data. Set of instruction we are representing by million instructions. Set of data we are representing by MB. Right? The day-to-day you know that is what is MB. Right? Similarly, if I have 2 resources, assume that 2 resources, R1 and R2. If number of tasks is same as number of resource, if number of tasks is equal to some number of resource, then there is no use of scheduling algorithm, right? If I have 30 students and I have 30 different companies, and I'll assign only one company to one student, right? I'll give one placement, then there is no use of scheduling. The scheduling come into picture if number of tasks is greater than the number of resource, right? Because you have to minimize the time. So generally a resource is executing the work, so it has a processing speed in million instructions per second, and it has a bandwidth that is called as your Mbps. So by looking into these parameters, one side your customer, another side your provider, what you can do? You can do mapping, right? For example, if I assign user 1 work to machine number R1, it takes 4. How it is coming 4? So it is nothing but 200, that is nothing but the volume of instruction of T1 divided by the processing speed, that is 100, plus the volume of data, that is 20, divided by related bandwidth is 10. I hope it is clear. This is 200 divided by 100, 20 divided by 10, right? So if you do this calculation, you will get, I hope you will get 4, right? So the total time it will take 4. Similarly, if I assign T1 to resource number 2, what I will do? 200 divided by 200, that is 1. 20 divided by 5 is nothing but 4. 1 plus 4 is 5. So here you are getting value 5. So I hope this matrix will be now you can generate by looking into these information. So this matrix is called as expected time to compute matrix. Expected time to compute means if I assign the task 1 to resource 1, then how much time it will take. Okay, it is expected. It may happen that there is a failure, there is something will happen, right? Some problem will happen. It may deviate the time, but we are expecting that it will complete by 4 units of time. Then if you looking into this particular matrix, whatever we discussed, that is called as ETC matrix. This ETC matrix is of 3 types. That is called as consistent matrix, inconsistent matrix, semi-consistent matrix, right? So what do you mean by consistent matrix? Consistent matrix says that if a particular resource, for example, if U1 is assigned to R1, okay, so it is taking 10 units of time. U1 is assigned to R2, it is taking 25 units of time. Similarly, U1 is assigned to RM, it is taking 116 units of time. Why they are taking different time? Because these computer systems are different nature, right? Different behavior, different operating system, different processing power, different bandwidth, right? So as you know that 10 units of time is always better in comparison to 25 and 116, right? So I am taking this 10, right? 10 is the lowest time, or you can say earliest time to execute U1. So once you find a matrix, right, which is taking less time, right, for a particular U1, you can predict which machine is best for others. Like you know that for U2, first machine is better. UN also first matrix is better. If such properties will be there, that matrix is called as a consistent matrix. So consistent matrix means if one resource is better for a particular user, that resource is better for all. If such a case happen, then you can say it is a consistent matrix. But real life scenario is not true. You may like a Big Bazaar product. I may like let's say DMart product. Another person may like some other Reliance Trend product, right? So what happened in the second example? You can see lowest time is achieved in the resource 1 by U1. Lowest time is achieved by U2 in the last machine. Lowest time is achieved in the resource 2 by U1. So you cannot predict which resource is best for which user. Such a matrix is called as your inconsistent matrix, right? Coming to the next matrix, that is semi-consistent matrix. It is a special case of inconsistent matrix in which if a big matrix is given to you, for example, let's say order of this matrix is let's say it is 5 cross 5. I can take a 2 cross 2 or 3 cross 3 or 4 cross 4 matrix which is consistent. For example, if you see this matrix is consistent because for U1 and U2, R1 is always better in comparison to R2. If you can derive a small matrix in comparison to a big matrix, so this is a special case of inconsistent matrix in which you are finding a consistent property, then you can say that matrix is called as a semi-consistent matrix, right? So with this brief background, I will tell you about what is resource allocation algorithms, how resource allocation algorithm works, and how task scheduling algorithm works, right? So each lease, whatever there in the cloud, the lease is having various properties, right? The lease is having a lease ID, like a student is having a student ID, faculty is having a faculty ID, like lease is having a lease ID. Each lease is arrived to the cloud service provider at a particular time. Each lease will start in the cloud in a particular time. Each lease has a particular deadline. Each lease required period. Okay, period means it is duration from let's say 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. This is my period of execution, right? So that is called as your period. So the number of nodes, one may require 2 nodes, one may require 3 nodes, one may require 100 nodes, 200 nodes based upon their requirement. So what is the problem? The problem of resource allocation says that you are given with a set of resource nodes, which I told you I will take a 4 node cluster to explain, right? You have a set of leads the leads are submitted by different user, right? One side user is there, another side cloud service provider is there, right? One side consumer is there, another side provider is there, right? What is our problem? Our problem is to assign resources to the user so that user can perform their work. That is the overall goal of resource allocation algorithm. Our objective, I have to accommodate as many as resources possible. That's why the lease rejection should be minimized. Means the user requirement, that user requirement should be fulfilled by the cloud service provider, and as much as user possible, we have to accommodate in the cloud, right? That is the objective. So this is the example. I have taken 7 leases. Each lease is having a arrival time, right? Arrival time is completely different in the start time because whenever the train is coming, let's say the right time is called as your start time, but whenever you reach to railway station, you can consider as a arrival time, right? So always start time is greater than the arrival time, right? So it may happen that arrival time is also same as start time, which we call as the immediate lease, whatever we discussed. So there is a deadline, there is a period, right? And there is a node. Try to understand. If you understand this particular slide, this slide is very easy to you. For example, customer number 1. Customer number 1 submitted a lease number 1, that is L1. It is requested to the cloud service provider at 8:30. It needs resource from 9 a.m. to 10:30. So it requires resources from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Right? In between these 1 hour 30 minutes, it needs the resources for how many minutes? That is mentioned in the period. That is 40 minutes. So I need a 40-minute slot in between 9 a.m. to 10:30. And how many nodes I require? I need exactly only 1 node. Out of 4 cluster node, I need only 1 node. It may be assigned this node, or this node, this node. Any node is okay for me, right? So you know that total duration is how much? 60 minutes, 1 hour, right? So it is total 90 minutes. Out of 90 minutes, I have to give the user 40 minutes in order to satisfy its requirement, right? Similarly, other leases also you can see, right? Come to the first algorithm, which is given in the HYGEA. HYGEA says that once a lease is assigned to the cloud service provider, what cloud service provider should do? It should find a single time slot. For example, here total time slot is 40 minutes, so I will find 40 time slot in a 4-node cluster, right? For example, 40 time slot is not available. So what I will do? If not, if single time slot is not assigned, not there, then what I can do? I have to perform rescheduling, right? So whatever leases already scheduled, that I will try to reschedule. How I will reschedule? I can reschedule by applying the sorting techniques on the slack value. I will calculate the slack value. I'll tell you how to calculate the slack value. Then I will sort according to the slack value, right? So one person can suggest that if it requires a 40-minute slot, right? For example, I want to travel from Bhubaneswar to New Delhi. Ticket is not available. But whenever I'm checking Bhubaneswar to Allahabad and Allahabad to Bhubaneswar, Allahabad to New Delhi, ticket is available. So you have to travel in the same train, right? But you have to take two tickets, one ticket from Bhubaneswar to Allahabad, another is Allahabad to New Delhi. Similarly, that enhancement is called as several time slot. So instead of going for 40 time slot, if 2022 time slot is there, then it is also okay. Or 10:30 is available, it is okay. 30:10 is available. Any combination before deadline, if it is possible, then it is okay. So let us see one another example. I have taken 5 leases, right? I have taken 5 leases. So this arrival time, start time, deadline, period, and n is known to you. So I have to calculate the slack value. Where I will check slack value if rescheduling is required. Now, till now I don't know whether rescheduling is required or not, right? So let me go for this 4-node cluster, right? In this 4-node cluster, first I will execute user number 1. What user number 1 require? User number require from 12 to 13:20. Okay, this 1 hour 20 minute slot, I need 40-minute slot of how many nodes? 2 nodes. So I have assigned 12 to 12:40. 12 to 12:40 to user number 1, and it asks for 2 nodes. You may assign node 1, node 2. You may assign node 3, node 4. You may assign 4, 1. No, there is no problem, right? Anything you can assign. So I have assigned node 3, node 4 to user number 1. My user 1 is satisfied. Come to user 2. User 2 required 12 to 13:20. It required 20 minutes, but number of nodes should be 3. So I am checking here 3 node. 3 node is not available because 2 node I have assigned to user 1. Only 2 node left. So I cannot assign from 12 to 12:40. But after 12:40, I can assign 12:40 to 20 minutes. That is 1 p.m. 3 node slot for L2. Right? Second job is done. Come to the third one. 12 to 13:20. I require 20 minute slot, but number of node is 4. So I cannot assign from 12 to 1, but I can assign from 1 to 120, 1 to 120. That is a 20-minute slot and 4 nodes, right? So lease 3 is also satisfied. Now lease 4 is coming. Lease 4 is required 12:30 to 13:20, right? 12:30 to 13:20, and I need 40-minute slot. Check 12:30. Where is 12:30? This is your 12:30. 12:30 to 13:20. In between, I require 40-minute slot, and that to be 1 node. 1 node, 40-minute slot. So I can assign, yes, there is a 1 node slot is available here, right? So I can assign 12:30 to 1. 12:30 to 1 is how many minutes? So it is a 30-minute slot, right? But my requirement is 40-minute slot. So this lease cannot be assigned to this 4-node cluster, right? Similarly, 12:40 to 13:20, you require 10 node, okay, 10 period, okay, and 2 node slot. It is also not possible, right? So what our High algorithm told? It says that you find a single time slot. By following this single time slot, we have assigned lease 1, lease 2, lease 3. But whenever lease 4 is coming, it is not possible to accommodate. Then what I will do? I have to do the rescheduling, right? So in order to do rescheduling, what you have to find? You have to find the slack value. How you will find slack value? Slack value is nothing but start time, right? The difference between deadline minus start time divided by period. So what is the deadline here? 13:20. What is the start time? 12. 13:20 minus 12 is how much? 90 minutes, right? 90-minute slot divided by 40. Right? Divided by 40. Sorry, this is 80-minute slot. I'm sorry. This is 1 hour is your 60 minutes plus 1 to 120, it is 20 minutes. So it is 80 minutes, right? So 80 divided by 40 is 2. So my slack value is now 2. Similarly, calculate the slack value of lease 4. These 4 is nothing but 12:30 to 13:20. The time is 50 minutes, right? 30 here and 20 here, 50. 50 divided by 40, you will get 1.25. So you have to find the slack value of L1 to L5, L1 to L3, because L1 to L3 is already assigned. So you have to sort the slack value in the increasing order of their slack value. Unfortunately, what happened? The increasing order is already there. That is L1 followed by L2 followed by L3. So while rescheduling L1, L2, L3, according to the slack value, you are getting the same sequence, right? Same sequence you are getting. So there is no improvement, right? So still L4 cannot be accommodated, L5 cannot be accommodated. So IGI is not possible to accommodate L4 to L4 and L5 in this particular example. So I request I'll share this slide. You will work out this particular example. Okay, due to time constraint, I am not executing the second example. Now come to the second algorithm. Second algorithm is the DPS algorithm. Second algorithm says that why to wait to calculate the slack value at the time of rescheduling? Why not calculate the slack value initially, right? Once a lease is coming, we can calculate the slack value because we know the start time, deadline, and as well as period, right? So first you determine the slack value. If the slack value is less than 1.1, you straight away reject it. For example, start time of a lease is 9 and end time of that lease or deadline, end time or deadline of the lease is, let's say, 10. The duration is 60 minutes and I need 60 minutes slot, right? My period is 60, okay? So 60 divided by 60 is 1, right? So you are giving your period is 1 hour and you require 1 hour slot, so which is practically not possible. So it is coming slack value is 1. As 1 is less than 1.1, we are rejecting the lease. If the value is greater than 1.1, then what you can do? You can find a single time slot. If single time slot is not satisfied, you can go for multiple time slot. What I told you in multiple time slot, for 40 minutes, you can find 20 minute 2 slot, or 1 10 minute, another 30 minute slot, or 30 minute 10 minute slot. Even if that you are not able to schedule, you have to perform rescheduling. But here, rescheduling is depending on the decreasing order of n. If somebody is requiring 4 nodes, you have to assign first. If somebody is requiring 3 nodes, you have to assign second. If somebody is requiring 2 nodes, you can assign third. If there is a tie, this tie can be break randomly, right? Or by finding maximum period, right? If not, then you can apply the backfilling algorithm. Backfilling says that you can add some other resources in order to increase the utilization of the resources. If at all not possible by the help of scheduling and backfilling, simply you have to reject the request, right? So if you work out this example, you have to find the slack value, right? After finding the slack value, what you are saying is that all the slack values are greater than 1.1. We are processing to the second step, right? Then I will find a single time slot. Then if single time slot is not possible, I will go for multiple time slot. If not possible, then I will go for scheduling. If not possible, I will go for backfilling, right? So if you apply the DPS algorithm, highest node, if you see in the rescheduling part, once you assign L1, L2, L3, you cannot assign L4 and L5 as I discussed earlier. But if you are not assigning L4, L5, what you are doing? You have to reschedule the already scheduled leases, that is L1, L2, L3. How you are doing rescheduling using DPS algorithm? By the help of number of nodes. So L3 is having highest node, so it is scheduled first. L2 is having second highest, so it is scheduled second. L1 is in the third position, so it will be assigned third. So L3 first, L2 second, L1 third. So if you assign like this, then you can accommodate L4, L5. So in IGR, you are executing only 3 leases, but by the help of DPS algorithm, you can execute 5 leases. So this resource allocation algorithm is better in comparison to other resource scheduling algorithms. Similarly, there is a third algorithm that is called as alert time based algorithm. What alert time says? Let us go through the example so that it is more clear. So we are calculating the alert time here. Like slack value, I am calculating here alert time. What alert time says? Determine the deadline and start time, right? Deadline is your 10:30, start time is 9, your period is 40, and number of nodes is 1. Alert time is calculated is nothing but D minus P. D minus P means D is nothing but 10:30 is my deadline, but I need 40 minutes slot, right? So I have to start my work at least at 9:50 in order to satisfy my deadline, right? So in this manner, I am calculating on that time. And it is saying if the leases are having same start time, like these first 4 leases are having same start time, so they should be present in a same group. And the lease is having earliest alert time need to be executed first. For example, if you see in these first 4 leases, lease 1 and lease 4 is having earliest alert time, that is 9:50. So you have to assign L1, L4 first. And in order to break the competition between L1 and L4, you can see the number of node requirement of L1 is 1, number of node requirement of L4 is 4. So I have to assign L4 first, L1 second. Right? In this manner, you can also perform the scheduling and you can get this particular Gantt chart. So how you can compare these algorithms? These algorithms can be compared by the help of accepted leases, how many leases you are accepting, how many leases you are rejecting, how many leases insisted you to reschedule. For example, when L4 is coming, we are trying to reschedule L1, L2, L3. So L4 is a lease which insists you to reschedule. Okay, and how many leases are rescheduled in order to accommodate the newly arrived leases. That is called as number of rescheduled leases. So you have to evaluate these 4 parameters to say that which algorithm is better. So there is a standard data set available for resource allocation that is having 11 leases, 22 leases, 33 leases and 44 leases by the authors of DPS algorithm. If anybody is interested, this data set you can use in order to execute your own algorithm. Coming to the second algorithm. Second algorithm says that you know that there is an advanced resolution list which is having highest priority. Best effort list is having the lowest priority. So you know that in a system, if advanced resolution list is there, okay, then best effort leases will be not given as priority. They will not given as priority. So what you can do, you have to skip the best effort list, right? So in this context, if you see the best effort list is given a fair chance, right? There is no fairness in this particular scheduling. This is same as our temple example, right? Whenever we are going to a temple, there is a 2 queue, one male queue, another female queue. If there is a rule that female people should visit the temple first, then only the male people, then the male queue will face the starvation, right? So you have to do some innovative algorithm so that male queue and female queue should be equally, or you can say that 2 female and 1 male. Some kind of things you can see so that in order to do the fairness, right? So this is the particular algorithm you can implement the resource allocation algorithm. Okay. For example, if you see here, there is a best effort list. Upon arrival of an advanced resolution list, this list is printed and this will be resumed once the advanced resolution list is completed. So it may happen that another advanced resolution list is reaching here, okay, at 7 units of time. So this best effort list work will be again default. So in order to avoid that, fairness algorithm can be developed. Third type of problem in the resource allocation is called as posted price model, right? In this posted price model, what you will do, there is a set of tasks. There are 6 tasks are there, right? Here. And there are 6 machines are there or 6 clouds are there. Each task takes some time, okay, or some cost or some reliability factor or some availability factor, any factor. That factor is represented in between 0 to 1. So once a matrix is given like this, you can apply in mathematics. There is a popular algorithm that is called Hungary algorithm, right? That can be applied for doing the resource allocation. So how Hungary algorithm works? In Hungary algorithm, what you have to do? You have to find the row minimum. For example, in this row, which one is minimum? The minimum one is 0.23. Once you find the row minimum, you have to subtract the row minimum from each and every individual element. So I have to do 0.67 minus 0.23, 0.53 minus 0.23, 0.38 minus 0.23, 0.23 minus 0.23. So you will get here 0. Similarly, in the second row, the minimum one is 0, right? Minimum one is 0. So this row elements will be same: 0.33, 0.34, 0.12, 0, 0.96, 0.96. After finding, this is the first step of Hungary algorithm. Second step, you have to find the column minimum. What is the column minimum here? Column minimum is 0.11. So I am subtracting 0.11 from these particular elements. The minimum here is 0.22. So I can subtract 0.22 from this particular cloud, right? So the value you will get this. Once you find this row minimum followed by the column minimum and subtract accordingly, you have to put minimum number of lines such that the number of zero element will be covered. Minimum number of lines, not maximum number of lines. So if you do, the number of lines required to cover all zero element is only 4. So as the number of lines is not same as your number of tasks or number of rows, what you have to do? You have to find the minimum uncovered element. The minimum uncovered element is nothing but 0.08, which is not covered by this particular line. Okay, and that particular element you have to add wherever you have put a line. Right? For example, here you have put a line. Here there is a line in the previous slide. Here there is a line. Okay, here there is a line. So you have to add 0.08 in the elements whatever present in this line. If there is an intersection between two lines, like here there is an intersection, here there is an intersection, here there is an intersection, you have to add 2 times the minimum element, that is 0.08. After that, what you will do? You have to subtract the minimum element, that is 0.08 from each and every element. Then you will get the number of zeros, right? And again you put the same thing, number of lines, minimum number of lines to cover all the zero element. If you see like that, total number of lines is required is 6. As your total number of lines is equal to number of rows here, so you have to stop and you have to find it mapping like this, where 1 indicates that T1 should be assigned to machine number 2, T2 should be assigned to machine number 4, T3 should be assigned to machine 1, and so on. So this is your posted price model. So coming to the second part, I'll take another 10-minute or 15-minute time, right? Second part is your task scheduling algorithm. What happens in task scheduling algorithm? Once this resources is allocated to a particular user, how user is going to execute his work, that is called your task scheduling algorithm. For example, you can see if you go for this approach, task scheduling approach is of various types. For example, the approach may be centralized, the approach may be distributed. In the centralized, what happens? There is a centralized server. All the user need to submit the work to the centralized server, right? Like all the students should assign the work, assign his application, their application to the HOD, because there is no faculty advisor concept in the centralized server, right? But if there is a faculty advisor concept, so what will happen? Section A people will be approached to X faculty, section B faculty people will approach to Y faculty, section C approach to Z faculty, so that the load of the faculty can be distributed. So it depends which type of environment you require, whether you require centralized system or distributed system. If you go for centralized system, one user may request the work to the centralized server. This centralized server can assign the work to one of the cloud. Okay. In order to manage the thing, what happened here? In each cloud, you have a manager server. Each cloud has a manager server. This manager server know what is the status of each and every server inside this particular cloud. So once it is receiving a particular request, it should know that whether this request, if I receive this particular request, whether my server will be overloaded or underloaded, or whether I am capable to execute that work or not. In this way, you can do performance scheduling. Coming to the second example. Come to the distributed one. Distributed one, what happened? You can request your work to any server, any manager server. For example, this user has submitted the work to this particular manager server. This manager server received the work in the form of a directed acyclic graph or directed flow graph or any type of directed graph. Right? What it will do? It will divide that work into small pieces, right? And keep some pieces in their own part, right? And some other request it can redirect to other manager servers based upon the availability of the resources in that manager server, right? Because all the resources, all the tasks cannot be executed in the same cloud. If it fills, it can execute, then it is fine. If not, it can redirect a request to other manager server so that the other manager server can execute that work, right? So while submitting the particular request, like directed flow graph, so the directed flow graph may be advanced reservation mode or it may be a best effort mode. Based upon that, scheduling algorithm will be a complex one, right? Now, I'll tell a very small example so that you can give to your students or you can work in this domain. So here we have 3 directed acyclic graph, right? Or 3 different applications. As I mentioned earlier, application has a application ID like 1, 2, 3, and the application has a arrival time. The arrival time is 0, 3, and 9. And this application is, let's say, advanced reservation application. This application is a best effort application, and this is also a best effort application, right? So what happened? So whenever a task is coming, this particular advanced reservation task is coming, so you have to print the best effort task and you have to give priority to the advanced reservation task because it is having highest priority in comparison to the best effort task, right? So I told you how to generate the ETC matrix, right? ETC matrix is generated using volume of instruction, volume of data, related bandwidth, data size you can generate. So let the ETC matrix is like this. So these are the tasks A, B, C, D up to L is the task. These are the tasks. Okay, I have written in the column, right? Earlier it is written in the row. Here it is I am written in the column. And this part you have the setup cloud. Let us assume that there are 3 clouds. If task A is assigned to cloud number 1, it takes 2 units of time. Task A is assigned to cloud number 2, it is taking 3 units of time. Task A is assigned to cloud number 3, then it is taking 5 units of time. Why they are taking different time? Because it is a heterogeneous system, not a homogeneous system, as I already mentioned. So I'll tell you first very popular algorithm in computer science, that is called round robin algorithm. If you're going for round robin algorithm, as you have 3 clouds, so you have to assign the first task to first cloud, second task to second cloud, third task to third cloud, fourth task to first cloud, second task to fifth task to the second cloud. Once the application is over, you will again start 1, 2, 3, 1. Once application is over, you will go for 1, 2, 3. So this order is written here, right? In this order only, you have to execute these applications. Subjected to A, R, and B, subjected to the dependency among the tasks. Okay. Okay. The second one is the scheduling, right? That is called as a list scheduling. List scheduling says that round robin is not doing fair because it is randomly giving, so that it is not knowing whether a cloud is overloaded or a cloud is underloaded. So what it is doing? It is finding the minimum for A. Which one is minimum? Cloud A is minimum, so it is giving to cloud 1. For B, which one is minimum? Cloud 3 is minimum, so it is giving to cloud 2. For C, which one is minimum? Cloud 2 is minimum, so it is giving to cloud 1. Like that it is processing. So if you compare the performance of scheduling, this list scheduling with RR, you will see this scheduling is performing better in comparison to round robin, as round robin is following a particular order, but scheduling is not following a particular order. It is looking to the ETC matrix and finding the earliest time. Based upon that, it is going to assign. Next, few researchers also suggested that there are some other parameters also you need to consider in order to calculate, in order to assign the task to the cloud, right? So before going to that, let me tell you what is this directed acyclic graph. There is 2 times. One is called as computation time. Okay, let me write CT, computation time. Another is called as communication time, COT, right? Computation means whatever there inside the circle, that is called as computation time. Okay. Once this task is completed, then you have to circulate the result to here, to another circle, right? Okay, or another node or another task, right? So while you are giving the results from one node to another node also, it will take some time. That is called as your communication time. For example, we are staying our home, we are also staying our institute, right? So the time required to move from our home to institute or institute to home is called as your communication time, right? But the time you spent in house or home or in institute is called as your computation time, right? So in this way, you will understand inside time is called as your computation time, and this rectangle one is called as your communication time. First measure you can apply, that is called as T level, right? Or it is called as soon as possible. As soon as possible says that you calculate the value of each and every individual node. Based upon that, you can say that which task need to be executed first. So T level says that start from an empty task, go to a given task. So while you are moving from an empty task to the given task, you will consider the computation time of the empty task, but you will not consider the computation time of the given task. However, the communication time from the entry task to any task or to the given task need to be considered. So there may be, it may happen that there are multiple paths are available while you are going from the entry task to the given task. And if there is a multiple path is there, you have to choose the maximum path. So that is the concept of a top level. Let us take an example. So I'll tell a very simple example. For example, T3. So for going to T3, there is two paths. You can go for T1 to T2, right? Because it is saying entry task. Entry task is always T1. It is saying entry task to a given task. Entry task to a given task. Let's say I am calculating for T3, right? So for reaching T3, there is two possibility. I can go T1, T2, T3, or I can go directly T3. So if I am going directly 3, how much cost is there? It is 5 plus 12, because I will not consider this cost as mentioned in the T level. 5 plus 12 is how much? Sorry, 5 plus this time is 3. Sorry, this 12 is this particular duration. This 5 plus 3, it is 8. If you follow this particular path, how much time it will take? 5 plus 4 plus 7 plus 12. 12 plus 7 is 19. 4 is 23 plus 5 is 8. 28, right? So multiple paths exist to reach a particular one. How to select which one I will take, 8 or 28? It is take the maximum one, that's why I am doing 28. So based upon the lowest value of ASAP, I can do also performing any kind of scheduling, right? So rest of the things you can calculate. This time limit is there, so I will not go through these particular calculations. Other calculations you can do. Coming back to the second criteria says that bottom level. Bottom level says that given task to an exit task. First one is saying, the T level is saying start to given. Here it is saying given to exit. But computation time of given and exit task also you will consider. Communication time of both are considered. Multiple path also may be there. If multiple paths is there, you have to find the maximum. So come to T3 again. So if you are present in T3, how you can reach the end task? End task is T6. You can go through only one path like this, right? So what is the time taken by T3? 3. And this time, communication time, 4, 3, 4 is 7, and this is 8. So it is 15. So if multiple paths are there, like T1 case, multiple paths are there, you have to choose the maximum path. And based upon the highest B level, you can assign the task to the club, right? This is the second parameter. Third parameter is called a static bottom level. Static bottom level says that you have to go from given task to exit task. The same thing, whatever we discussed in the B level, given task to the exit task, but the constant is that communication time you will not consider, right? Multiple paths are also exist. If multiple paths are there, you have to choose the maximum of, right? For example, if you come here, come to T4. Let us concentrate T4. How you can reach to T6? You can reach T4 to T5, then T5 to T6, or you can directly go to T6. Okay, but you will consider only the computation time, not the communication time. Computation time is 4 plus 8 is 12, right? If you go this particular path, 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 8 is 14. And we have to choose the maximum one, right? So this is called as a static bottom level, right? So you have to choose the maximum static bottom level in order to assign the task to the cloud. The last one is called as late as possible. So as late as possible says that how much time you can delay for a particular task. So you have to do a reverse calculation. The reverse calculation is nothing but you have to find the time from the exit task to a given task. Okay, and whatever time you are getting here, that you have to subtract from the critical path. Note that in software engineering also you have studied critical path. Critical path is a path from the start node to end node, and it is the maximum path. From the maximum path you have to calculate, right? That is called as your ALAP. But here you have to, if multiple paths are there, you have to choose the minimum one in contrast to T level, B level, or static B level. Okay. So let us see here. For example, I know that this particular graph, if you calculate the all possible path from T1 to T6, the highest one you will get 43, right? So I want to find for T6. So what I will do, exit task is my T6 and my given task is also T6. Okay. So my critical path is 43 minus the path from T6 to T6 is 8. The computation time is 8. So what I will do, 43 minus 8, you will get 35. Right? Similarly for T4 also you can calculate T6 to T4, or you can calculate T6, T5, T4. So you will get the value is 20 and 15, and you have to choose the minimum one. And the earliest ALAP you will consider for scheduling, right? So by looking into these parameters, you can perform the task scheduling, or we generally call it by workflow scheduling. Okay. Then let us see what we discussed today. That is the conclusion part. We discussed three algorithms, that is Hygia, DPS, and ALT-RA algorithm. I also told you about how fairness algorithm should work, because AR is giving always the highest priority in comparison to the images. We have also discussed the posted price model. We also discussed the Hungary algorithm, which is a very famous algorithm in the mathematics implemented in the cloud computing. And in the task scheduling also, we discussed two popular algorithms, RR and scheduling. Also consider four criteria: T level, B level, S level, and ALAP. And by looking into these, you can perform the workflow scheduling, and you can apply any kind of other parameters also. Like I introduced some L level in my as a part of my PhD work in order to complete the task in a minimum time. Right. So these are the algorithms you can explore. And you please follow these papers, whatever I mentioned here, from the 2009 to 2013, to 2015, and some papers are recently published. You follow this one. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask. There is a question by Dr. Dev Sharma. How to perform task mode? What do you mean by task mode? Dev Sharma sir, are you there? Sir, actually, can you please tell me what is the meaning of smooth? What you want to tell in task smooth? Smooth means, is it same as how we can process the task without any interruption? Okay, without any without any interruption or without any preemption. So if you see in that manner, then you have to first see whether to go for a primitive algorithm or non-primitive algorithm. Like if you see in maximum cases, we want to get more profit. As a cloud service provider, every cloud service provider need more profit, right? If you concentrate on that, then you can preempt the task execution, right? If you give priority to Y instead of X, then only you will get more revenue, right? But at the same time, you can see Y should not be uh, why should not be face any kind of starvation, right? So it depends upon the policy, right? In which policy you are using to perform the task in a very smooth manner. If it is a primitive, then I can say that no, task cannot be performed smoothly. But it is a primitive, non-primitive mode, then you can say somehow you can achieve the things, right? If you have any question, please write in the chat box. I am checking other. Any algorithm for bioinformatics by Dr. Venkat Swami. Sir, I am not sure that which algorithm is implemented in bioinformatics, because that is not my area. I do not know whether SCGT chain is applied any scheduling algorithm, especially cloud scheduling algorithms you can implement in bioinformatics or not. I am not sure about it. How algorithm improve performance in Hygia, right? So one of the enhancement also we discussed that instead of going for a single time slot, okay, so you can go for multiple time slot for in order to achieve good performance in Hygia, right? So DPS algorithm is implemented in multiple time slots, so they are getting better result in comparison to Hygia algorithm. So you can go for other measures also. If you have something in your mind, then you try to implement, because this multiple time slot is a new concept to beat the benchmark algorithm given by Hygia. This is the question by Dr. Sabin Kabir. Okay, if any question is there, please write in the chat box. Otherwise, I request Taposhi Madam to please conclude. Tapasi madam, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I hope I have answered all
now,
the questions. Yes.
If anybody have any questions, please send the questions in the chat box. So let us, sir, conclude.
Yes, please.
Abhisham, I don't think anybody is there for the question session. So please conclude the session.
Another
Yes,
question by Dr. Venkat Swami.
Acha, acha, okay.
That will algorithm can do best service at present situations. In the practical scenario, if you see, sir, round robin and FCFS algorithm are used by cloud service provider. Although there are a lot of algorithms developed in the resource allocation and task scheduling, but still people are used FCFS and round robin algorithm. Okay. Thank you very much for your patience. I have taken extra 29 minutes. Thank you very much.